Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m., October 9th, 2024, and the meeting of the Urban Design Commission will now come to order. May we please have a roll call?
Allison Gordy,
Here.
Ryan Lucas,
Here.
Edith McKee,
Here.
Trevor Strait,
Here.
Monica Sullivan,
Here.
James Colas,
Here.
Julia Foland is excused absent, and Ali Nanalo is currently absent. You have a quorum.
Moving on to the minutes, may we get a motion to approve the minutes from July 19th, 2024? It's been moved by Commissioner Strait and seconded by Commissioner Gordy. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Are there any objections to the minutes being approved? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next, we're moving on to the special order of business. Are there any disclosures? Perfect. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We don't have any items on the consent agenda and/or unfinished business this evening. Therefore, we'll move on to the regular business and public hearings. So now I'll read the public process. The Urban Design Commission meets the second and fourth Wednesday of each month except holidays as regular meetings. If the Urban Design Commission fails to complete its agenda for its regular meetings, the Commission carries over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting date. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Urban Design Commission at its meeting is: 1. After the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. 2. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Urban Design Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners, including all his/her/their representatives, have 10 minutes. Rebuttal by the petitioner may be allowed when time has been reserved. Representatives of groups, this includes community councils, PTAs, have 5 minutes, and individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the Commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the Commission. Any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the Planning Director within 7 days of the Commission's decision made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal, in accordance with AMC 21.03.050A.4.A. Commission recommendations to the Anchorage Assembly are not appealable. Following approval of the written findings of fact and decision, any party of interest may, within 20 days, file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with Section 21.03.050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the Planning Director on a form prescribed by the municipality. If the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant's notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. With respect to case 2024-0089, the petitioner is requesting a design variance to allow relief from AMC 21.05.0403E, requiring L2 buffer landscaping. May we please have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pages 5 and 6 of your packet show the petition site. It's a long, skinny lot on the northeast corner of Braga and Reka. The petition site contains about half an acre and it's zoned RO, Residential Office District. There's a pending change of use permit to convert this old bank building into an adult care facility. The use-specific standards required for adult care facilities are that L2 buffer landscaping is required along the east boundary. The site has non-conforming rights because it was constructed a long time ago, grandfather rights for a building setback encroachment, the lack of site perimeter landscaping, parking lot perimeter landscaping, pedestrian walkway, curbed end islands, and lack of bicycle parking. But those non-conforming rights don't extend to this change of use, converting the building from a bank to an adult care facility. Therefore, with this existing site, the current building permit for tenant improvements, they are seeking relief from that landscaping requirement. No state or municipal agencies object to the granting of the variance. 78 public hearing notices were mailed. No comments were received. The application was routed to the Russian Jack and Airport Heights Community Councils. The community councils didn't provide any comments. The planning department reviewed the application and the approval criteria and found that all of the approval criteria were met. The planning department is recommending approval for the requested variance subject to condition 1 on page 4 of your packet. This condition is just a standard condition of approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? I have a question. On item G, it says, just as a point of clarification, it says the owner is seeking the ability to change a vacant bank building into an adult care facility without having to reorient the existing building and parking lot. Is that at all a need or a consideration or a risk?
Through the chair, Madam Chair, I don't understand the question.
It says without having to reorient the existing building and parking lot.
I don't think that I wrote that in the clearest way. What I was trying to say is that, so you have an existing building with parking lots already built, and in order for them to install the landscaping, they would have to do something funny with, the parking lot or the building, to remove portions of the structure or, add parking somewhere else, but it's already a developed site. And so that's what I was trying to say, is that the alternative to having to install landscaping is that they go without parking or that they remove portions of the structure. Would be a crying shame. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I was just asking for clarification that in the event that we didn't approve the variance, it doesn't, does it have impacts to the building or the parking? So thank you.
Thank you.
And then my other question was also just a point of clarification that the alleyway, because there's a vegetative buffer on the other side, can meet the criteria for landscaping, even though it's not landscaped on their side. And that is item A. So it's kind of, it's a point of, I'm just confirming it for myself that because there is a 20-foot wide alleyway that does have landscaping, that the intent of this code is met because that separation exists. Even though it's an alleyway, it's not a vegetated buffer, but it meets the criteria.
Yes, that's correct. The idea that I tried to write about was that I think that the intent of the code was that for an adult care facility, adjoining, like, single-family homes, that perimeter landscaping should be required to help buffer a more intense use with a residential, lesser intense use. But because the two properties are not touching, that there is a buffer that's provided by the constructed alley, that it seems that the L2 landscaping is unnecessary.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other questions of staff? Okay. Will the petitioner please come forward? Please state and spell your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Marinel Mantohac, M-A-R-I-N as in Nancy, E-L-L-E. Mantohac, M-A-N-T as in Tango, O-J-A-C as in Charlie.
So you will have 10 minutes to present. Would you like to reserve any of your time for rebuttal?
Yes, ma'am.
How many minutes would you like to reserve?
Do you have questions? I changed my mind. I'm I'm okay.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, just leave it on. Okay. Good evening. I am Marinel. I am one of the applicants for this variance that is being applied tonight. We have been renting the property for almost a year now, and we are hoping that everyone here would consider the variance that we are applying. On my personal thought that the space that they are wanting vegetation is, I would say, 3 parking spaces that we would be using for dropping off and dropping in of the clients. And most of our clients would be person with disability, so it would be like a van and wheelchair accessible vans. So other than that, I'm really hoping that you guys, everyone here would consider our application. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, don't leave yet. Are there any questions of the petitioner?
Oh, yes.
So I think I read somewhere that the building is not going to be all adult care, right?
Sorry, ma'am?
The whole building is going to be adult care?
Half of the building.
And what's the other half?
I believe it's being rented by Providence. It's an office for Providence.
Okay, so it would not change any other, I mean, they're going from class to, I guess it's less parking. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are you requesting to speak? I'm trying to get there. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties. It's not showing up. Commissioner Straight?
Thank you. So can you describe a little bit, it sounds like you're planning on using mostly the eastern portion of that building towards the alleyway. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain a little bit kind of your pickup and drop-off procedures? Do you use basically just that east side? Do you use the north side as well?
The other side we are planning for, like, that would be the main parking area. So that other side would be mainly the drop-in and drop-off of clients.
Okay.
So,
And this is how you're operating the facility today?
we are not operating yet.
Okay.
We are waiting for the approval of the park.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We will now open the hearing to public testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify? Okay. Are there any more questions from the commission for the petitioner or staff? Commissioner Sullivan?
I have a fast question. So it seems like the site is already having issues with parking. I don't know what's the current code with parking. I couldn't find it. Are you, like, for the new change, how many stalls you need?
Through the chair, Ms. Sullivan, may I answer the question?
Yes.
The zoning code was the zoning regulations were recently amended to remove parking requirements.
Yes.
There is no parking requirement. However, this facility does want to, they know how many parking spaces they'd like to offer to their clients and customers, and yeah.
Thank you for the reminder.
Commissioner Gordy?
And just really quickly for staff, the parking requirements have gone away, but there is still a requirement for accessible parking, is that correct?
That's correct, and the municipal handicap parking requirement is higher than the federal one.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any more questions? The public hearing is now closed. The matter now rests with the body. We will move and vote on, may we have a motion to approve in case 2024-0089? It's moved by Commissioner Gordy. Mover, would you please state your motion?
Sorry. Yes, I move to approve a request for a design variance to allow relief from AMC 21050A.3.E to not require L2 buffer landscaping subject to condition 1 on page 4 of the staff report.
Thank you. It's been seconded by Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Gordy, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support the motion. I think this is a great use of a building that's been sitting there probably vacant. I don't know if that's fully true or not, but it seems like a great reuse of a building. And going through the findings of staff and the approval criteria, it seems like all of these items are met pretty well, even if it's not in maybe the conventional L2 landscaping way. And I can go through findings. So item A, the proposed alternative achieves the intent of the subject design standard to the same or better degree. The intent is to provide a buffer from residential uses, which is achieved through the existing alleyway as mentioned by staff and in this presentation here. And that seems to be a more than adequate buffer, and actually probably a stronger buffer than just a landscaping barrier. Item B, the proposed alternative achieves the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Granting the variance allows for future use of the building as well by keeping the parking in place that already exists. The landscaping won't allow the parking to meet code essentially, I believe, as staff mentioned, without modifying the building. So to me, the standard is met. Item C, the proposed alternative results in benefits to the community that are equivalent or better than the compliance of the subject standard. I would say this is definitely an equivalent benefit to the community, and as previously mentioned, the reuse of a building provides a much larger benefit to the community than having to modify things in a costly manner to employ some landscaping. Item D, the variance if granted will not adversely affect the use of adjacent property. The variance doesn't adversely affect the adjacent property as there's no change to the site conditions, only the use of the building, but it seems to be maintaining similar hours to what was there before, and I would imagine similar volume. So the standard is met. Item E, the variance, if granted, does not change the character of the zoning district where the property is located. The standard is met. It is a permitted use in this zoning district. And again, the alleyway provides a correct buffer. So the standard is met. Item F, persons with disabilities are provided with access as required by the ADA and reasonable accommodation. The standard is met. This variance is not directly related to ADA, but by maintaining that parking, you're allowing accessible access to the building, which is important. So that is definitely met. Standard G, the variance if granted does not adversely affect health, safety, and welfare of the people of the municipality. The standard is met. There are no health or safety issues that I can see that will be caused by the approval of this variance. And item H, the standard is met because it's not applicable. We're not really dealing with signs. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your second?
No comments. Thank you.
Are there any other commissioners wishing to speak to the motion and/or add findings? Commissioner Straight?
Thank you. Looking at the layout of the situation here, I think it totally makes sense to approve the variance in this case. I think the site and the location of the alley probably would negate any benefit you would get from having a landscape buffer there to begin with, because you can't really control how much traffic goes up and down that alley. And so I intend to support this variance.
Thank you. Did anybody online indicate? Okay, thank you. Here's there's no further discussion. May we have a vote on case number 2024-0089?
Ryan, how do you vote?
I vote to approve.
James, how do you vote?
I vote to approve.
Thank you.
Case 2024-0089 passed with a vote of 6 in favor and 0 against. Thank you. The next case on our agenda tonight, with respect to case 2024, oh, whoops, sorry, I've got, no, thank you. I'm reading my notes over. With respect to case 2024-0095, the petitioner is requesting review and approval of Peratrovich Park improvements. Do we have staff's presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The Municipality of Anchorage Parks and Recreation have submitted this major site plan review for improvements within Peratrovich Park in downtown Anchorage. These improvements would include a new plaza space, landscaping, and new pathways connecting F Street with East Street and 4th Avenue, and also to the Log Cabin Visitor Center. The park is located within the B2A Downtown Core Central Business District. No reviewing agencies were opposed to the approval of the site plan. The Parks and Recreation Commission submitted a resolution of, oh, thank you. Oh, that's much better. Thank you. The Parks and Recreation Commission submitted a resolution of support for the site plan's approval. The department did not receive any public comments. We had routed 649 public hearing notices to property owners and also notified the Downtown Community Council. The petitioner also had a public meeting with the Downtown Council. The department reviewed the application and finds that all criteria are met for approval. There are 4 criteria in evaluating site plans. So criterion 1, the site plan is consistent with prior approved plans and approvals. There is no park master plan for this park. Criterion 2, the site plan complies with all applicable development and design standards in Title 21. Comments from traffic engineering noted that the improvements meet all Chapter 21.07 design standards. There's no parking for this site. There's no perimeter landscaping requirements as well within this zoning district. Criterion 3, the site plan addresses significant adverse impacts. The accessible pathways will make it easier to reach the site. These pathways will be cleared in winter months, and there are considerations in the design for stormwater runoff and the health of trees and plantings. Criterion 4, the development is consistent with the Our Downtown Anchorage Downtown District Plan, which is an adopted element of the comprehensive plan. The department recommends approval of this site plan subject to condition 1 in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Okay, no? Will the petitioner please come forward? Please state and spell your name for the record.
Peter Briggs, B-R-I-G-G-S,
Hi, Peter.
P-E-T-E-R.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
We haven't done this for a while, so we're a little rusty. Thank you, Peter. You will have 10 minutes to present. Would you like to reserve any of your time for rebuttal?
In theory, 4 minutes. Thank you for this opportunity. Oh, we'll wait for the clock. There we go. Thanks for this opportunity to summarize the master plan and near-term plan improvements for Peratrovich Park. My name is Peter Briggs, as I said, and I'm here with Nicolette Dent with Parks and Recreation, Juan Lee with R&M Consultants, and Jonathan Petrunik with Professional and Technical Services, otherwise known as PTS. The park currently exists with a de facto master plan based on the existing design circa 1985. The packet that you have represents a revised master plan for Peratrovich Park. This new plan is highly consistent with the current park, with improvements to reflect how the park will need to evolve to better serve the changing needs of Anchorage. The main updates are to better facilitate bringing people into and through the park, ensure that the park has clear sight lines for all spaces, and to develop a plaza area for all season use. The pathways are realigned and widened, and the west side of the park will now be directly connected to the east side. Widening the sidewalks creates a higher level of comfort for those using the park. The new plaza area north of the existing amphitheater will facilitate easier use of the park for all seasons. These pathway and plaza improvements also reflect the desire to increase accessibility and inclusiveness within Anchorage Park facilities. In alignment with universal design, the north doors of Old City Hall will be accessed from the main east-west pathway rather than needing to use a side ramp to bypass the stairs. Additional items included within the master plan relate to better site lighting, better access to electrical for vendors and events, the potential for future improvements to the stage area, and items such as a significant sculptural element to the northeast of the site to celebrate the park and mark that as a main entry. After almost 40 years, the age and condition of the park has it ready to be refreshed. We are expecting to demolish all of the hardscape within the park. The existing irrigation system is non-functional, similar to the existing lighting and electrical systems. These will be removed, and the intent is to install sleeving at a minimum below any hardscape areas to allow easier future installation should an irrigation system or additional lighting go in. Most of the trees on the site are expected to be removed, with the exception of the large birch tree in the performance area. It was made clear to us that this is a very special tree, kids playing on it otherwise during noon concert sessions. Otherwise, the trees on the site are generally in poor condition or merit replacement with better consideration for their long-term health. We do want to place an emphasis on retaining quality trees that will continue to contribute to the park, so a final assessment is still pending coordination with tree experts with the municipality. The project before you is due to a successful 2023 Parks Bond. The bond has helped to fund this planning and design process and will be used for the first phase of project development. This first phase is expected to be hardscape improvements and hopefully at least initial infrastructure to facilitate future lighting improvements, as I mentioned with the sleeving, and some upgrades to load centers and similar. A significant project opportunity has been aligning this effort with the planned 4th Avenue improvements. Phase 3 of the 4th Avenue improvements is from E to EF, G, so it's 4th Avenue right beside the site and a little bit of work back in on E Street and F Street, my alphabet. Bidding these projects together creates a really good economy of scale and also minimizes project impacts within the area to adjacent businesses and the public. The combined project is expected to be out for bid in early 2025, with construction beginning in 2026. As described within the packet, the project has been developed with an advisory group, and we have consulted with entities including the Downtown Community Council, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and the Historic Preservation Commission. Project partners include the Anchorage Downtown Partnership and the Anchorage Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have had the opportunity to discuss the project with the Peratrovich family and hope that this master plan and future improvements will continue to enhance this park as a representation of the Petratroviches and civil rights in Alaska. With the park having 3 distinct zones, tourism with the cabin, the old city hall in the center, and the eastern performance area being what most people think of as being Peratrovich Park with the Raven sculpture that's there. We've heard consistent support from all parties that we have engaged with relating to the enhancing the park within the spirit of its previous design to meet its evolving needs. We thank you for your time and would reserve the remainder of our time as needed. I'm a minute and a half ahead. That never happens. That's what's good when I write things down.
Are there questions of the petitioner? And yes, Commissioner Sullivan.
Hi. What's going on with the vendors? Does the plan is to push them into the park or to keep them? Because I see that there's none in the, in the main sidewalk, which is where they kind of stand all the time. So the idea of the park remodel is to kind of create an area for those vendors?
Yes, within the larger plaza area there, we made certain that the peripheral sides to the edges would be appropriate size to fit hot dog carts or similar such businesses, or if someone was going to set up a 10 by 10 event cover with a table inside of it. A big part of it as well is the hardscape to be able to be more cleared easily for events like Ferrandi in the winter, because right now for being a hilly grassy site, use of it in the winter is a challenge. But yes, the intent to bring vendors in. The electrical plan also includes GFI outlets throughout the park for winter lighting, but that could also be accessible in addition to a couple of 50 amp connections that would be of high use for events that would have sound reinforcement or other needs for a higher level of power, especially if there was a larger food or other electrical requirements. That's a long answer. The answer is yes.
That's great. I think some benches to eat would be great. I'm always trying to find a place to sit and eat. I just think sometimes this space is great, but it's hard to find a place to buy and sit. It's not very inviting, but.
That's a good thing that I didn't mention within it. So we are retaining some benches up by the Old City Hall, and then the existing seating that's in the amphitheater area, we're retaining that because the concrete is in pretty good condition, and the design already works. And then we're adding another row of benches behind it that would be elevated above the plaza on all the sides. So there would be 2 foot wide concrete benches, that's the second row that you see in the plans. So the intent is to have some more seating available.
So that's new. Thank you. Great.
Commissioner Straight?
Yes. I want to commend you and the project team in general for kind of your public outreach and your willingness to work with the community and all the different groups. I'm sure there were a lot of different people that wanted some input on this project, and I commend you guys for working through that, looking through the documentation here. I was wondering if you could maybe give at least one example of something that came out of that public involvement process that ended up kind of being involved in the final design that wasn't initially
Can give you
considered.
multiple examples,
Okay.
but we'll start off with one. A good example came from the visitor's log cabin. We didn't know how much the back door to it was used, are you aware that there's a back door on it? So in the back of it, and they painted footprints on the pavement to give people access to it. We had just had a very small pathway to it. So with the public meeting we held in the park, I walked over there with them, and they reinforced the importance of that. So we widened the pathway and realigned the back area between the cabin and the Convention Visitor Bureau offices that are behind it with that big stainless steel archway over top. That's one. And then it was a fantastic conversation on site with Betsy Peratrovich. She is the daughter of Roy Peratrovich, who was the sculptor that did the Raven sculpture, who is a son to the Peratroviches, relating to the Raven and their concerns with the existing Raven base, the vandalism of it, people sitting on it. It's not generally desirable to have people sitting on things that act as a monument, so there's some discussion as to changing the base for the sculpture in order to improvement one step beyond what they might have not thought of initially. So the input for this from a public perspective was fantastic because it could shape the project.
That's great to hear. Thanks for those examples. One other thing that I noticed in several of the documentation on the public involvement is concerns about, I guess, crime in that particular park and people potentially shying away from that park due to the activities going on there. And I don't know if you saw in our packet, but there's quite an extensive list of APD incidents that have occurred in that park. I was just wondering if there's anything that can be done or you have done as part of the design to hopefully try to reduce that from the design perspective.
Yes, there are probably two things I would hit on from it. One is crime prevention through environmental design. It really focuses on clear sight lines and minimizing any obstructions between about 30 inches and 7 feet. So the worst corner is probably if you're looking at the amphitheater from 4th Avenue, if you look to the right at the back of Old City Hall, there's a number of trees that make that area feel a little bit private, and that's where undesirable activities were happening that left unhygienic results there. So the intent of pulling those trees out, having a little bit of an upper plaza space there. The second part to the answer is by bringing people in. Right now the walkways that the benches are on by City Hall are quite narrow. And even if I was sitting on one of those benches, it's uncomfortable to walk in front of someone with their legs in the pathway when you are feeling like you're coming close to them. Those pathways, I think, are only about 5 feet wide, so we're showing pathways that are 10 feet wide. Regardless of who is on the bench, a 10-foot pathway makes it much more comfortable for people to pass by. The one exhibit that we had within the packet had a green, a yellow, and a red zone for really the comfort of the site. The intent for that is creating wider hardscapes to invite people into the park, because if we have people moving through the park, it will passively reduce undesirable activities because it becomes much more visible, and it's a matter of claiming the space for beneficial activities, and especially with the opportunity to bring vendors in, kids playing. There's a power of 10, is that if you're in a place and you can see 10 things to do, it's probably a positive place to be. So that's one of what the desire for this is, having people in it, and especially hopefully a future use for the City Hall that would be bringing people back into the park as well.
Thank you very much.
I have a couple questions. So reading through the comments, there was a lot of comments about bathroom facilities. Is there room within the park to add a bathroom facility in the future?
Ideally, the goal at the City Hall for having whether it's a public purpose or something that is community purpose would be that's the perfect way to do something like a restroom. Within the design for it, we didn't account for putting in a plumbed restroom or similar. But the nice thing with, we work with other communities when it comes to bathrooms, whether they're events or there's a particular use for it. More and more places are using portable kind of truck-in restrooms for things. So there is, whether it's a space for that or within the road corridor, and especially also having the electrical capacity in order to be able to plug in something like that. But the quick answer to your question is no, not having an additional permanent public restroom facility here. But the city is also currently doing a study on, you probably saw in the paper about the Portland loos or the different type of restrooms to see how those fit within trying to address something for Anchorage. Because it is one thing we heard when people here do come here for the concerts, with kids or otherwise, is kids or us people getting older, whatever, is that having access to a restroom is a really important civic. But us, like so many other communities, are really struggling with finding the right solutions.
Thank you.
So that's a long answer. Yes, but it's not providing one at the moment.
That's okay. And then my other question is, so the Raven statue will be relocated in the park, but with a better, potentially a better base, or what will happen to the Raven statue has not yet been resolved?
Yes, at a minimum, it's going to be relocated in order to get where it currently is overlaps with a 10-foot wide pathway to the east. That also is a ramp with handrails because we couldn't quite get the grades to work. Roy Peratrovich was an engineer, so the base for that is about 14,000 pounds of concrete, which is fascinating. So it will not move in a windstorm, but the plan is that yes, we would either relocate it the way it is or work with P&D Engineers, who is Roy's company. They still have quite an investment in the park as well, so to work with them to see if they can figure out a base that achieves the goals, the artistic goals for the sculpture better than what is currently there.
It seems like an important feature to keep in the park. And then so I have a couple of questions for you. My other one was, there was a lot of comments about preserving the birch tree. And then looking in the major site plan review under plaza space and landscaping, it says that a desire to increase the ease of accessibility within the park may include a narrow slope pathway down into this area. This would be within the root zone of the birch. It would be expected to negatively impact the tree. So I was curious, are there any alternatives, such as a built-up pathway or something else that may or may not, cause the eventual loss of this birch tree that people have specifically mentioned is really important to them?
So the birch tree, the way it is, it's you wouldn't call it necessarily a specimen birch because over time it's been impacted by people, but it's been impacted in a way that kids can sit in, and it kind of, is a nice little climbing tree. There's a little bit of there's damage to the trunk of the birch, so there are concerns that it doesn't necessarily have a lot of life left in front of it, but we don't necessarily want to impact it overly. At a minimum, we've heard from Leah Boltz locally. She really loved the fact that we were bringing the hardscape into the space in order to allow a higher level of accessibility toward the amphitheater itself. The benefit of having that pathway come down is that everyone does love the grass, and whether you're forearm crutches or wheelchair or otherwise, bringing that concrete path down is pretty important because it helps someone with mobility issues navigate the slope to get down to the level spot. So it's one of those trade-offs, is just for us trying to assess the level of impact for that. But luckily there's a pretty large grass area there that if there was some small root impact, it could be done in a way that would be better than bad. So the careful thought is hopefully there.
And when that was shared with the public, that, that like providing the AD accessibility that might potentially result in the loss of the birch tree, they seemed also to agree that that was like an acceptable trade-off.
I don't think we have presented it as such as black and white, because in my professional opinion, that root zone damage wouldn't be a death knell for the tree. It would just, temporarily set it back somewhat, but there are things we can do to minimize that impact.
And then the park will significantly increase the impermeable areas. And so would you mind describing what the drainage treatment is, or so that we don't have, you don't want ponding and other things in an ADA?
Currently, the park has one inlet, and it's down in that amphitheater space in front of the tree that connects to a storm sewer system that is in the eastern, toward the eastern side of the alley behind the Egan. So the intent is, where possible, would be to try to keep the drainage districts similar. The goal on a site is never to direct water beyond the site boundary itself, but in an urban area with the adjacent sidewalks, it can be a bit challenging. So the goal with the plaza area, which is the most significant increase of impermeable area, would be to get that water going to the west, so to the green area there. But we're currently at 65% design within the package that you have. We're moving toward 95%, I think, for mid-November, so drainage is still going to be something we're looking into more. There was early discussion, perhaps, of a permeable paver system or something like that, but for an area of this size, the fear of movement with freeze-thaw cycles or the amount of effort to prepare the subgrade might not necessarily have the return on investment that could be put elsewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then my last question was about lighting. So are you increasing the lighting, or are you putting in infrastructure that would facilitate increased lighting at some point in time?
So the master plan is showing, I think, 17 pedestrian light fixtures within the park. So currently the park has uplights for the building itself that are not functional. They have small glass bollards that are for that pathway, but I think they're non-functional as well. So there is no significant lighting within the park currently. The lighting engineer we have for the park is the same lighting engineer as the 4th Avenue project. So with the lighting diagram we have in there, from a master plan perspective, we would like it that the contributing street lighting and the pedestrian fixtures on the street, in addition to the park, create a quite a comfortable minimum lighting level on the pathways. So the intent is that when money is available in the future, if we can't squeeze this budget enough, the pedestrian light poles would go into the park. But currently currently within the available budget, there's not enough money to put in pedestrian light poles in the park.
Thank you. Just because the lighting tends to make
and that's a
people
good thing
feel
to
a
make
lot
clear
safer.
within this as well. As part of this is we have a de facto master plan, so we have the colorful master plan documents, and then the CAD sheets you have really do relate to this first phase where we're trying to work within the full bond amount. I think was $700,000, but there's a smaller portion of that which is available for construction.
Perfect. Thank you. Just because the lighting definitely makes people feel significantly safer, especially in the winter. But
Yes.
thank you. That concludes all my questions. Thank you. Are there any others? I'm not seeing any. We will now open the hearing to public testimony. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to testify? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Are there any more questions from the commission for petitioner or staff? Nope, nope, nope. Seeing none. The public hearing is now closed. The matter now rests with the body. We will move and vote. May we have a motion to approve in case 2024-0095? Been moved by Commissioner Straight. Mover, would you please state your motion?
Yes, I move to approve a major site plan review for the Peratrovich Park improvement subject to condition 1 on page 4 of the staff report.
Thank you. It's been seconded by Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Straight, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I support this project based on the criteria in the staff report. The findings are site criteria 1, the site plan is consistent with any previous approved subdivision plats or plan development master plan. There is no park master plan. The site plan, condition 2, the site plan complies with all applicable development and design standards. Condition 3, the site plan addresses any significant adverse impacts. I think there are no significant adverse impacts identified so far. And criteria 4, the development proposed in the site plan is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Other than that, I think that the project team has done a good job reaching out to the community and getting input and soliciting input, and taking that and incorporating it into the project. And for those reasons, I intend to support the site plan review.
Thank you, Commissioner Straight. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, I intend to support the project. I mean, my kids grow in that park, and I think it's always the crime that keeps us away, and the fact that you are designing with the right guidelines, and I think that bringing people and more opportunities for more people and more community to gather, I think it's a great project. I'm really happy to see that this is happening.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioners wishing to speak to the motion or add findings? Commissioner Gordy?
I also intend to support this project, and I just wanted to say that it's a really nice package. I think this is a huge improvement for downtown Anchorage. I've walked by that park a million times and have rarely gone in, based on some of the things that are happening there, and I think this is a huge win, because it's a pretty cool area to highlight downtown, and I think for visitors, that visitor cabin is very welcoming, and I think it's great to kind of carry that through the site and give it some love after a lot of years of sitting there a little bit dormant. But it seems like the public safety concerns were really well addressed through site design, which is great, and a lot of research, I can tell, that went into this. And it just seems like a really great project. I can't wait to see it. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll also add that the site plan addresses any significant adverse impacts that can be reasonably anticipated to result from the use by mitigating or offsetting those impacts to the maximum extent feasible. The site plan also complies with all applicable development and design standards set forth in this title, including but not limited to the provisions in Chapter 21.04 zoning districts, Chapter 21.05 use regulations, Chapter 21.06 dimensional standards and measurements, and Chapter 21.07 development and design standards. And I intend to support this plan. Thank you. I think it's very well thought out. You've considered a lot of the different uses and impacts, and I think it'll be a great addition to downtown Anchorage. Thank you. Or an improvement. It's already there. Great improvement. Thank you. Are there any other commissioners wishing to speak to the motion and or add findings? Not seeing any. May we have a vote on case number 2024-0095?
Commissioner Ryan?
I vote to approve.
Commissioner James?
I vote to approve.
Thank you.
Case 2024-0095 passed with a vote of 6 in favor and 0 against. Thank you. We don't have any request appearances or reports or commissioners' comments, so we'll be moving to adjournment. Could I please get a motion to adjourn? It's been moved by Commissioner Gordy and seconded by Commissioner Straight. Are there any objections? Hearing none, this meeting adjourned at 7:25 p.m. And I'm going to close hearing with Thor's hand.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I did, and I, for October, this is my October close the meeting hammer. It's in this drawer. You got to hold that.